where you don't need to be perfect, and everyone messes up.
Yeah.
Don't be upset if you don't always hit the mark on something. But by having that work ethic and showing what you're able to contribute, there's not a person out there that's not going to want you to be a part of what they're doing. So that's probably the biggest thing that I would kind of push out there.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the UAZ Podcast. My name is Rebecca, and today I have my colleague here with me,
Nicole Camacho.
And we're really excited to have Mr. Bob with us. He's joining us from the Tucson Roadrunners. He's been the president of this great organization since 2016, so he has a great number of experiences. And I want to say that we happened to watch one of his games last week, which was really great. It was my first time watching the hockey game, so I'm really excited that I happened to go in person and watch the game. I've been watching these games online through friends, movies, but then I was able to watch it in person, which was really cool. That was really a great experience, so I'm really excited to have him with us here because we're really going to learn a lot from him since he has been in this business, in the sports business for quite a number of years, and he has served in several leadership positions, so he's been a great leader. It really shows that. So for our first question, before we begin, I want to ask you, what really inspired you to take on this journey of leadership for all this number of years?
No, well, thank you. And thank you, first off, for having me. I'm glad you guys did get to come see a game, and we'll make hockey fans out of you. I mean, that's what we try to do with everybody here in Southern Arizona is get them hooked on the sport, and with so many different things that it can offer, from just the excitement of a game to the community that it can involve. And, when I look at, to your question of what this particular role and what drove me to it and why I kind of tried to mold myself into this area. I grew up playing sports, in high school, and then when I went to college, I played some golf and was, kind of learning from that that collegiate kind of sports side of things. It's something that I always thought this is a field that I always wanted to do and something that I wanted to be a part of. I started out actually very similar to you guys here in the broadcast journalism side of things, and then worked my way through different organizations after I graduated from Northeast Ohio. Kent State University was the college that I went to, and when I graduated there, wanted to just get my foot in the door with any organization that I could, and how could I learn as much as possible, and where that journey was going to take me. I did not know at that point, and who knows, with different choices along the way, and with potentially taking a left instead of a right, what that would have ultimately led to. But I'm very fortunate that this path has led me to here in Tucson, and being a part of the launch of the Tucson Roadrunners back in 2016, and then to see the longevity of this franchise now celebrating our 10th season. It's been really exciting and an honor for me to be a part of all the good people that have been a part of the organization, whether they think I'm a good leader, a bad leader, or like what we do or don't. I think we've at least done something to kind of put a little bit of knowledge into their into their backgrounds and be able to hopefully help them along, which is a big part of what we try to do. Yeah.
So that means sport has been something that you're always passionate about from a young age, which is really great because most people, when they're passionate about something when they're still young, those passions tend to change.
Yep.
But here you are, you've kept your passion, and it has brought so many, I think, joy to many people's lives, because sport is something that join people. I remember on Saturday when we were at the game, everybody's shouting, everybody's, like if a team wins, everybody's so happy and we're all connected. We don't know each other, but we are all just so happy for the team member who is winning, which kind of brings that joy as a community together. So you joined the Tucson Roadrunners in 2016 and helped grow the franchise through a decade of milestone. What leadership lessons have you learned about building something sustainable from the ground up?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate to be able to be a part of a couple of startups. So in the sports world, there have been arenas that I was a part of, and where an arena was built and launched within a community. The Roadrunners are my third sports team that were in their initial year, so starting up with them.
Yeah.
And it's really, a lot of people find that, I think, a little bit daunting and a little scary. And from my end of things, and I think a big part of why I was brought into it to be a part of the launch, I love that piece of it, because you're building, from the ground. Everything in every block you put in place is going to have an impact on what that future is. And what are we going to do on day one that we're going to look back on here 10 years in to say we're proud of, or that we had a plan to be able to kind of put together some of these pieces. And, you talked about it earlier, that it's that community. And it's, we thought from day one, the way that this franchise will truly make its mark and grow is to not only provide a community for their fan base so that they enjoy being at those games, they enjoy living those wins, but then they have to live the losses together too, right?
Yes.
That's always a fun part of it. But then also, what do we do out in the community? Yeah. Because you're arrogant if you look at it and say that everybody's going to be a hockey fan and we're going to be able to convert everybody to be 100% into the Roadrunners, or spend every dime they have of spending money, entertainment dollar to come and watch the hockey team play. But to think that's arrogant, but to think that we can make a mark and that everybody has that awareness and that they can look and say, well, I've only been to 1 or 2 hockey games in the 9 or 10 years, but boy, you guys do an unbelievable job in this, or in growing this, or in giving opportunity to certain people, or helping, whether it's fundraising and it's raising money for different charities. That's a lot of the rewarding part, and that's where a lot of that community comes in. So, back when we started in 2016, when you build a franchise, it's putting those blocks down. It's trying to figure out what's going to make you, that might be really challenging and a little bit high of a mountain to climb in year one. What's going to give you success, though, when it becomes rewarding in year 2 or 3? And an example of that is a foundation, right? And building a charitable foundation, that is a true 501c3, that we can really make an impact to go out and raise money through our platform, through our games, through whether it's selling jerseys, whether it's doing different ticket promotions. We had a promotion on the night that you guys came with Make-A-Wish there to where a certain portion of the tickets that were going in was going right back to Make-A-Wish. And, in order to really utilize that platform, you need to be a 501c3, and you need to have that flexibility of making sure you're doing things legally and making sure that you can really make an impact with the money that you're raising. So we knew we couldn't start our foundation on day one. It had to be something we built and grew into. So that was about midway through our second year. So those building blocks were put into place well before the first puck was ever dropped in 2016, but you didn't really see that real impact until 2018 and then beyond. So just an example of how you really have to plan ahead and think of how are we going to make an impact 2, 3, 4 years from now, 10 years from now, where we are now, as compared to living day by day and saying, let's just try to make the most of right now, because sometimes that's just not sustainable.
That's true. So when you were building the franchise from ground up, were there any people who were doubting your abilities, what you were doing? Because I know it's so hard to build something up.
Yeah, it's a great question. Yes. I mean, that's the short answer. Yes, for sure. And I think I do not want to come across criticizing anyway Southern Arizona or Tucson with it, because they certainly have been burned in the past, and they have their history of minor league teams, different sports teams that have been in Tucson that just don't survive for whatever reasons. And that could be an entire another show as to why teams fail, right? So, yes, we had to run into people that doubted right from day one to say, this has never worked here. You guys aren't going to work here. Good luck, right? And I took that really personally as a challenge, and never, angrily, and never really trying to, be confrontational with it. Is more so, give us a chance, come and check this out, and you tell me if you don't see a difference. And for, you two both coming to the game here recently, I mean, if you've never been to a hockey game before, it's a great time. You don't have to know everything about the sport. We try to put on a great show so that even if you knew nothing about what was happening on the ice, did you leave and say, I had a great time? And that's what we try to create, is that environment and that entertainment piece. And so trying to talk to people and convince them of that, and to show them that we are the real deal. We have significant funding behind us. We're going to sustain. We have a plan. We know what we're going to do. From a reality standpoint, when it comes to dollars and cents, we don't need to sell this place out every game in order to make this work. Obviously, we'd love to, but we knew where that kind of that bottom line was, that break even. Of what did we need to maintain in order to make this a successful franchise, and that was a big part of that. And trying to just we knew that the proof would be in the pudding. By doing what we did and by showing that we can be successful, those naysayers on the outside, ultimately, they'd come around, and it worked. I'd say 90% of the time, they'd knock on our door to say, hey, congratulations, or hey, we saw that, it was really good. How do we become a part of this? And that really was some of the most fulfilling stuff, is when we turned a company, a person, a local civic worker potentially, because not all politicians totally bought into everything we were putting out there as well. So to see that success and those things kind of come back into favor for us was certainly rewarding.
So what's one thing that students can learn from this? Because I know most students here, mostly those ones who are graduating, a lot of them are thinking into, of course, going into business or starting their own ventures. So what can they really learn? Because I know you have lots of experiences in this. Yeah. Just to sum it up with a question, like, what can really students apply to their own life and careers?
Well, in my opinion, at least, I mean, sports and getting into the sports world is really kind of touches on an awful lot of stuff. Yes. Marketing. And you've got, so if you're just a marketing person and you want to go into that side of the business, whether it's marketing a clothesline or marketing a new business or a sports team, concepts are the same. And how do you get people interested in your product, and how do you get people interested in having that brand awareness and knowing about what it is that's important to you guys and what your core values and your mission is. From the business side, you look at, we have a lot of students that went to Eller that would come in and get jobs with us, and they'd want to know from not only selling, because in my opinion, almost everything you're doing in life is selling something. I mean, you're selling yourself. You're selling, whether it's a true sales job and you're out selling washers and dryers, or if it's a way that you're trying to, impact, the market share of your business or impact the bottom line. And so from the business side of things, we have a lot of different opportunities for students and just new workers to come and learn from that side. So I do think that sports, trickles into so many different areas. You don't have to be a complete sports fan. But when you look at what, in my opinion, what folks can get out of the sports world, at least, I do think that there are a lot worse things you can do when you think. I always talk to our staff, and I never want you thinking when you're driving here that, oh Lord, I'm going to work, and then I never want you looking at the clock 5 minutes before saying, can't wait to get out of here. If that's the case, then we're probably doing something wrong, because we want to build a collaborative effort with our team. It's a close-knit unit. It's people that work together. I mean, they want the person next to them to succeed as much as they want themselves to. Yep. And that part of it, I really think that teamwork approach is where it maybe does then translate over into sports. Because if it's an accounting firm, maybe just the strong survive, and maybe you don't care if the person next to you misses a few reports, struggles with some things, because they're going down. You're going to get maybe their raise. You're going to get their promotion. Yeah. In our business, it definitely is teamwork. If our marketing side is not working, our sales side's not working. And if our sales side isn't working, then the game entertainment's not working. So it really is collaborative that way. But, I do think that, from what somebody can learn in coming into the sports world, it deals an awful lot with that, from deadline setting and time management and what you really have to put out there. It is so critical, because I always tell our crew as well, I mean, these games, they're coming whether you want them to or not. It's like a train, and you can be as ready as you can be. We may miss some things. We may drop the ball, as a sports analogy with it, but you really need to do what you can to be as prepared and ready as you can in a very short time frame, because you guys came Saturday night and saw a game. We're turning it around and playing tonight and tomorrow. So we had Sunday to take a breath, Monday to kind of get ready, which was a holiday. Some people didn't have work or school. We were right at it, getting ready for Tuesday, Wednesday. So it just keeps coming. And so I think it really does help young and old people, really any walk of life, any field of business, that from perseverance and making sure that you can task manage and get things done on a deadline and get things, kind of put together. That's where the sports world jumps into that, because if you're not capable of doing that, it will really show in your work.
You answered our next question in so many ways. Over 1 million fans have attended the Roadrunner games here in Tucson. From a sports business and marketing perspective, what does it take to turn casual fans into a loyal community?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at that from day one to give them an opportunity to do something. There are plenty of things to do in Tucson, the outdoors. I mean, goodness, if you're a hiker, if you like biking, I mean, great weather. So we wanted to sit there and say, what can we offer that can give people an escape, an opportunity, something to go and meet new people, to just have this kind of group. So that kind of community mindset we pushed in there dealt with the word you mentioned in loyal, and it really was, it was loyalty driven. I mean, we needed them to care about what it was we were doing, what were the most important things out of what we were going to provide. Affordability is certainly a big thing. We wanted to make sure we gave a value, because it's hard-earned money. People work hard. And if you give them, not enough to kind of make it worth their while and their money, they're either not coming back or you're really going to impact their lives in a negative way. So we want to make sure that they can be a part of it and have that affordability kind of hooked to it. But then, it's what can we do to get merchandise on them? Well, a lot of it's giveaways. I mean, really early on, we gave away hats to people from the marketing side. We gave away jerseys. In our second year, we changed the jersey design, and people that came in and bought a certain number of tickets received a free jersey. So we wanted that branding out there. Every year we've done something that it's coming up actually February 21st this year, so it's just around the corner. But it's a youth jersey giveaway. So any kid 12 and under that comes to the game that night gets a free Roadrunners jersey. And I used to love seeing those. You'd go to the mall, you'd go to a restaurant, if I was going to do a school appearance or talking to kids at a school, you'd see so many young people wearing that jersey. And it's like, well, there's the branding and there's that marketability out there. So that's showing the loyalty that they're kind of growing and putting in place for us. So, I think you just have to make sure that you have value and that you can make an impact. And if you don't have value, if what you're doing isn't making an impact on your community and on the people out there, then that loyalty, you're really not asking for it. And, you have to ask for it. And then when you get it, then you have to really provide, and you have to make sure you hit the mark, because you ask for it, you get it from a fan, and then you drop the ball. Then you do things that aren't going to be family friendly or family centric. I mean, we make mistakes along the way, sure. But you want to try to make sure that you can kind of, earn that respect and keep that loyalty. And we've been really lucky that we've seen that through our 10 years. And I've seen, 10 years is a long time. It's amazing. Like when I see somebody that I met when they were 8 years old now coming to me and telling me that they're going to college, or I see people that have graduated from college or have jobs. And we even have a couple of folks that have gotten married and have families of their own. I remember when they were 12, they were coming to our games. Yeah. That's fun. And that's really the good stuff, because then you have made that impact.
And when did you first notice you made an impact in the community?
It was it's funny because we didn't have very long of a runway to get the team up and running. I came on board in August of 2016, and we dropped the puck in our first ever game at the end of October of that same year. So I had 2 months to put a staff together, to sell tickets, to plant the seeds out there. And so it was one of those things that by nature I'm a little bit pessimistic. I want it to be I don't trust in certain ways. And so when we played our first game, it was actually a scrimmage of a red-white game that the Arizona Coyotes NHL team came down to play kind of against some of our prospects, and one team wore red jerseys and one wore the white. It was very informal. It was not something that was structured and put together. It was just like, we want to try to show people the level of play. We want to show them a little bit of that entertainment, what we've been able to piece together in 2 months, what we could do, and it was free of charge. All we had asked is there happened to be a few weeks prior, unfortunately, an accident with a fireman here in town that lost his life and had a pretty big family, and we wanted to try to assist that and say, so this is our cause. If you want to come and check us out, great, come in free of charge. We're not, but we ask if you'd like to, feel free to donate into one of the boots, and one of the fireman boots, as you guys come in. And in doing that, our offices were probably 150 yards away from the arena, so I couldn't really see the front of the arena. Didn't know what was happening. I'm in my office, I'm getting ready, we're going through all the planning, making sure the staff's ready to go. So I'm not really sure. We may get 100 people to this thing, or maybe nobody that comes to this game, or don't know. And so when I walked out of my office to kind of come up to the front of the arena, the line was thousands of people. I mean, the door hadn't even opened, and there were thousands of people lined up across the front of the TCC, down one of the roads, Cushing on the back. Wow. Just all there, in hockey jerseys and hockey gear. I'm like, all right, we do have hockey fans here in Tucson. And that game turned out to have over 5,000 people that came to that, and we raised tens of thousands of dollars from people that donated, so much that, like, it became almost a security issue. It's like, what are we doing with all this money as this is happening? Let's start getting into this back room. Let's start counting it. Let's start making sure we can keep it safe, because the boots were overflowing, if you will, from the firemen and that were there on that. And that really was that first time. And it was very early on to sit there and say, we've got something here. This is a community that if we hold up our end of the bargain here, if we do our part, they are going to be there to support us.
Yeah, that's really overwhelming and great, because
it was fun.
You're planning something that you don't know, like, how many people are going to turn out, and you're like, is it only going to be like 100 people, 20 people? Then all of a sudden, like, the whole place is overflowed with so many people.
It's funny. It's one of the biggest flaws I have, probably, in my character, is no matter what it is, I always just in my mind, I'm thinking, I guess it's not even thinking, I'm certainly not hoping for the worst. It's planning for the worst somewhat and thinking, what if? So we've done everything we can to stack the deck. but what if nobody responds? What if nobody buys this? What if nobody comes? So that's just how I am with everything. My staff will tell you that. But in that particular time, that was certainly a challenge, because if that would have been a thumbs down from that end, that might have been detrimental to the entire operation, because it would have been something to rebound from, when the reality was we actually had something to grow off of.
Yep.
So it was really fun.
So you have, like we mentioned earlier, you have so much experience because you started playing sports yourself. So you kind of had that experience in a team level, working under a coach. Now you have worked at every level of professional hockey, from league operations to the leadership. And we have so many students who love to go into the sports business. And we've had a chance to interview some of them. They were like, because after the interview, we usually have some conversation, and they're like, I want to go into sports business, but I don't know who's going to hire me. So how can those students kind of have that hope that somebody will hire them, because they don't have like any experience into the business yet? They don't have anybody else, maybe like a friend or a parent who's working in those fields. So what experience that you've seen so far that can help them like feel that, yes, even if I don't have somebody, but with the knowledge that I have, I can be able to go into the sports business?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good thought, and it's I can tell you, at least in this field, and you know, this is one area I may be optimistic from my previous comments, there is a window and an opportunity for someone who wants to get into this business.
Yeah.
And the reason being is it is hard to find good workers. It really is. And I don't know why, and I don't know if other industries kind of suffer with it. It is, you know, everybody has their, you know, for the most part, everybody will have their benefits, and people will be able to kind of carry the ball a little bit, right? But to find that true home run hitter, it is challenging. And if you truly want to get into the sports world and you think the doors are going to be closed at you everywhere, a couple of things you'd have to kind of be mindful of. Number one, at first, when you start, you're not going to make a lot of money. So I don't care if you get hired by the Phoenix Suns tomorrow to be an entry-level person with them. Their entry-level people are not making any money. So if you're getting into the sports world to get rich off the bat, it's not going to happen. And the other piece to it is you've really got to be able to kind of sacrifice to yourself to say, you know, my weekends during this, they may not matter. You know, they're going to be, I'm going to have to really balance my hours. If I'm somebody who's looking that you know, kind of fulfillment in life is having my evenings and having weekends, and I want to golf with friends on the weekends, and I want to go and do stuff with my, you know, my girlfriend or my family or whatever it may be in the evenings. This industry's tough. I mean, there are times that you're going to put in 60 hours in a week during season. That's just the way it is. And so if you can't do that, and I see so many people that, you know, when you interview them and you talk to them, that isn't a problem, and they'll say the right things, but then day one in getting into that, it's easy to tell. It's like, oh, this isn't gonna go well, because they've really got to learn, or they've got to really adapt to what their expectation is. Now, that doesn't mean, I always tell our people, you know, we absolutely work very hard, but we'll play hard. And, you know, it's ways to find balance, you know, and, you know, if you are not interested in rich off the bat, if you don't mind cutting your teeth through long hours, you can find a place. Once you're in and you get that opportunity, because every team out there is looking for really good workers. And once you kind of get that opportunity and you get in there, then what I always tell people is you have to show value from day one. So let's say you get hired in as a entry-level salesperson. You better sell some stuff. I mean, that's a big one. If you're selling nothing but you're really valuable on something else, you're probably not going to last long. But if you come in and you're able to make an impact with some of the sales, have great ideas, show value in other places, maybe what you're doing is volunteering some time to really help the community relations department go out and put their best foot forward, because they're overworked and they don't have a big enough staff and they don't have a big enough budget. So you're saying, hey, I see you guys are doing the Pima County Fair on Saturday. Do you need an extra set of hands? And then you come and you don't just stand there. You know, you go and you work and you actually do it. It is so noticeable to see those people that really roll up their sleeves and get involved. And as you know, a president of a team, or if I was a general manager, or even just ran a department, if I saw that from one of my workers early on, it doesn't take long, then you know that this is somebody who kind of gets it from what they are providing and what they're producing here. They're teachable. They have a great work ethic. They're not just, well, it's not my job description. Because if that's one of those things that you want to talk about when you go into the sports world and saying, you know, I understand that a lot of people are going over here and doing this, but that's not really what I came here to do. It's probably not going to work very much either because we are a team. So, I would say that once you get in that door to show value, you will stick around. I mean, they will find things for you to do. So I do feel it's one of those great opportunities. What we try to do, it's not always, kind of the best kind of look to us. A lot of students, and I get it 100%. I don't belittle any of them. They want to make money. Internships, I do believe, should be paid, right? I like that. But sometimes in some places you can't. And it's just from a budgetary standpoint. So like this year we have a new program that we're running with the university and an awful lot through the School of Journalism here. We call it Roadrunner Academy. And we've got 12 people that are on the Academy roster that are learning in certain fields with some crossover. And it's from photography to videography. At the game the other night, the young lady you guys saw doing the intermissions or up front doing it, she's right here in your School of Journalism, and she is doing a great job, and she's getting so much. I mean, what other opportunity could you go to a pro sports team like that and be given the microphone and be given responsibility and saying, we know you may mess up on day one, but you're going to grow and you're going to learn if you want to. And she has said, I want to. I'm going to take a step forward every day that I'm here. And now when this season's over, what she can put on that resume and what she's learned, if a team in our league doesn't jump on and hire her because they've seen her now, we feel we give that opportunity. So, I would say for students here at the university that really, truly will come to you and be like, how do I get in the sports world? You really just got to have the desire to do it. Look for that right path, and then you will have that opportunity to give you a chance to show value.
So I think from what I've heard from you, if I can sum it up, it's more of being, it's kind of like you're putting yourself there as a service to others, to your team, being loyal, hard work. It's like the saying that says that hard work pays. So if you don't work harder, then of course you're not going to be hired with any other company. But like you really have to be there. You have to be present. Because I've seen a lot of students, like when they're working, because they're not paying any bills, they're like, I'm still living my life. And so they don't really put themselves in the present. And they're kind of like, they're working, but passively, So I think that no any other company can hire you if you're doing something like that. And I feel like it's more of teamwork, working together and putting yourself out there for the group and the whole department.
It's very true. I mean, and I never belittle anyone's choices or what they do with it. And if that is super important to you, that you're for yourself a little more, you want to evenings you want to go out with the fellas, or you want to hang with your family, the weekends you want to go water skiing or whatever it is you do, that's great, and there are jobs that are for you out there for sure that'll give you that path. But don't kid yourself thinking that this industry is one of those, because you'll be exposed very early as someone who isn't present and somebody who may be an unbelievable human being. But if they don't bring value and they don't push the needle, right, it's just, they're not going to work in this. And it's, in 10 years here, just trying to stay in the kind of the vertical here of the Roadrunners and not thinking of my previous 20 years with it. Here with the Roadrunners, we've seen, unfortunately, dozens and dozens of those folks to do that. Doesn't mean they're bad people at all. It's just this isn't for everybody. And I tell people that really when we interview. I try to when we're first talking to someone really early on in that interview process, I paint the worst picture possible because I don't want them to be fooled into thinking that if I finally got my spot inside a pro sports team, right? And then you come in here like, oh, it's nothing what I thought it was. And this is a lot of hard work. And it's midnight. When do I get to go home? And I'm back here tomorrow night, right? It's really challenging. So I always try to paint that picture of what a struggle it's going to be, because then if they kind of want to keep going, at least I feel like I've given them awareness that, it's a heavy lift. And if you can do it, you're going to have success. If you're a good worker and you've shown results with whatever franchise you're with, you will move up and you will move on. So if your goal is to get to the National Football League, you work hard to start, I'm telling you, you can get there. I mean, one of our main goals with our organization is to put players in the National Hockey League, and we've done that successfully with close to 70 players that have played in Tucson, now are full-time players in the National Hockey League. Well, we've done that even more, like closer to 100 of others, like when you're talking coaches, trainers, equipment people, of salespeople, marketing people. We have placed people with advanced jobs in just about every industry you can imagine out there in the sports world, for those that wanted to stay in it. Whether it was, we have somebody who was in a high position with UFC, somebody who's with the NFL. We have many people that work with the Suns and with the Cardinals,
Yeah.
Diamondbacks. So that's a big part of it too, is that if advancement and you're able to be mobile and you don't mind if you're working, whether it's in Atlanta, LA, or Tucson,
Yeah.
you can come be really, it's really noticeable of your work ethic, of what you can accomplish, that your desire to get better, and those people can find their way. The sports world, it's kind of like the athlete side of it in sports. If you come out and you're playing basketball and you continue to get better and score points and make your teammates better or pass the ball and you don't turn the ball over, right, you're going to get more playing time.
Yep.
And then you're going to get more advancement, and then you're going to get a bigger contract, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the way the basketball world works. The front office side from the sports industry is very similar to that, because if you do those right things, if you are helping your teammates, if you're scoring some points, you're getting some wins, you will advance.
And that's good that you're being realistic, because a few leaders are realistic. They won't tell you the real things until you do it, and you'll be like, I didn't know it was like that. Yeah. It's kind of like, because we were students at Prima Community College, and so we were leading one of the clubs, the journalism club, and then our advisor will do most of the things. So Nicole and I were like, okay, so since we are the UVA, we can start a club. And so we had to do everything on our own. Like, it's not kind of like we're working under an advisor anymore. But like, they didn't kind of picture that in our mind. Like, you don't know what's behind the scene until you're in it, and you're like, oh, okay, now you give respect to the person who was doing all the work behind the scene. So it's good, like, you're kind of picturing that picture, because if an intern comes in, they really know this is what I'm in for. And this is my time, this is what I can put in, and they will be able to work more harder and show results because they know what they are in for. But when you don't know, like, you're kind of like you're living in a fantasy, and at the end of the day, you don't really produce any results. And that's why most organizations tend to lose great workers just because they didn't really like give them the whole picture. They only kind of give them a half, then you have to figure it by yourself. But then it's really great, because when you go into that, you're like, this is how I have to do. I have to tighten my belts and work more harder, because this is what is required of me. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny, because sometimes they come in for the wrong reasons, and maybe they don't listen, or maybe they're I've made that mistake of hiring some people that maybe fooled me, and how they then it's great. You can see it almost day one at first game you get to.
Yeah. And
they're standing watching the game, and when there's other things to be done, and their supervisor or coworker's like, hey, we got to get all these things over to here. It's like, oh, hold on, we're on a power play. And it's like, oh boy, this might not be really good, because they clearly got into the sports world because they love sports. That's fantastic, and you can do that. But maybe another field of work, and just enjoy watching sports. Watch it on your phone, on your TV, wherever. Yeah. And and I think some people think, well, I can work in sports, and there's a lot that goes into the building up of so many different things. I mean, it went from a marketing side, and giveaways and promotional items, and the media and the public relations, a website, social media, podcasts. We have our own podcast, right? Yep. And all those pieces kind of go into it, and none of that is glamorous, like to just watch a game. You're doing the work.
Yep, there's so much behind the scene.
There is. Yeah, you guys know it from here. And there's a lot of research, and there's just so much preparation for it, that if your only interest was watching the hockey game or watching a baseball game, if you went and worked for the Diamondbacks, then that goes back to what I said a little bit ago, like show your value. Pretty soon, it's pretty evident to anyone that's making a decision in that organization that there isn't a lot of value.
Like Rebecca mentioned, starting a club here was so much work that we didn't know it would cost us. So you spent 7 years in the league level overseeing the operations, marketing, and franchise development. What skills did you develop during that time that you believe are the most crucial for students who want to lead an organization?
Yeah, you know what? I think I was shocked, to be honest, because I was at the team side, as you mentioned, and then went into that league level. And at the league level, the particular league that I worked for, there were 18 teams in it. And the skill set, the mentality that you had to take into that day-to-day job was completely different than a team side of things. Because on the team side of things, there's wins, there's losses. You have a big crowd, or you get a new corporate partner, or you get your team's on a 10-game win streak, or you remodel or you redesign a jersey and it's selling like hotcakes, right? There's wins there. Yeah. The opposite of that, if none of those things are working, they're losses, right? At the league level, you have to, you're almost like a politician in there, that you have to balance the goodwill and then the bad with 18 different children, if you will. I mean, they're 18-member teams that are coming. How do I stay fair to this team, this kid of mine, while this one maybe doesn't get all that and feels left out? So it really created an awful lot of problem solving, I think, what I really learned from that level. It learned how to deal with animosity, to be honest, because what I used to always joke with people and tell them is, and there was some truth to it, but pretty much anytime my phone rang and I picked it up, that was somebody yelling about something, because nobody wanted to call the league office to say, you guys are doing a great job, or what an unbelievable league-wide promotion you did. Or no, they're just going to call because the officials stink. Or because the game time was scheduled too early and they didn't get there on the bus in time and their team wasn't prepared and they lost 6-0. That's not my fault, right? Yep. So that was one of those challenges that you had to deal with from, trying to make sure you kept a positive outlook on things, because I truly believe in that, and I believe nothing sinks anything you're doing in life, in my opinion, more so than negativity. You want to be surrounded by positive people. You want to be, do anything you can to make sure you see the successes and some of these wins that you're having, so that you don't get bogged down in maybe some of those things that aren't going so well. Yeah. And when you're constantly dealing with negativity and people screaming and yelling because they feel cheated, it made it very difficult. Like, a big part of what I did with that particular league was the scheduling. So the playing schedule that the teams got every year, I put that together for them. And that's one where I talked teamwork earlier. Now I'm being a hypocrite because I didn't want any teamwork. I just locked myself in a room and did it myself, because other people that got involved with it would kind of mess something up, or it's like a domino. You change this and then 8 other things fall over here. So I would put that together and do that, and nobody was happy with their schedule. I mean, it's dollars and cents. If it's 2 extra days on the road, think about what that might cost that team, from 2 days of busing or 2 days of hotel per diem. There's a cost to it. Yes. And so every scheduling decision, went to the bottom line of these particular teams. So none of them were happy with it. And I always I did that for, 6 seasons that I was doing that with the schedule. And I always tried to look at it that if everybody's upset about it, I must have done something right. Because if one team came to me and said, I've got an unbelievable schedule, thank you, right? Then I probably did something that was unbalanced, But if they're all unhappy with it, that probably means that it's a little unfair to each of them in their mind, but that at least I tried to balance it out and do it as much as possible. But, that created that problem solving of trying to deal with different personalities, because that's another thing I think that at the league level, I had to have that fairness. I mean, I can't honestly think back to somebody that I didn't like at that level, like honestly had a problem with, pure animosity. I don't think so, but, there were people that, maybe pushed harder than others, or were a little more challenging to have an argument with because they always needed to win, those kind of things. That took some discipline to put in there. So I do all the time, since I've left the league side, because, frankly, after a while that got old of what felt like was continual losses, and nobody wants to pick up their phone every day and have, every time you do it's someone yelling at you. So I wanted to get back to the wins, and I said, no, I'm going to move back to the team side of things. And, I was able, though, to take a lot of those lessons I learned from the league office back to the team side of things.
So you said, like, to kind of lead a big team, you need kind of like experience, because I know, like, you talked about personality. It's really a big thing, because you mentioned that there are people like, okay, whenever you're having a conversation, they only want to win. Because I come from a bigger family, and I know that. I'm an elder sister. So I really know that. Even when you're all working on something, there's always that. And so you kind of have to balance that. And then there are also people, much as like they would love to win, they know the right answer, they know everything, how you guys are supposed to do it and plan it correctly, but they won't say anything. So kind of like, how do you really balance that? Yeah. You really know this person has an answer, but they're just quiet. Let me see what this is going to do at the end of the day. That's boy, when it comes to leading in any sort of management, any sort of supervisory role, it is extremely challenging to figure personalities. And I think that there's different mindsets too. And what I try to teach people, because you think in my world, a lot of times people that do advance fairly quickly and end up at a managerial level within our organization, they're probably pretty young. I mean, because we hire really young, we bring people in that are, if we're not their first job out of college, we're maybe the second or third. It's not an industry that a lot of people that are really established want to come and do entry-level stuff, right? So we deal with a lot of those people. So when you find somebody who's outstanding and somebody that you think has all of those tools that I talked about earlier and all of that dedication and the loyalty and the hard work they'll put into it, you want to grow them.
certainly to help yourselves in the short term, but you see the potential that person has for 5 years from now.
Yeah.
So you want to grow them. And then as a part of that growing them, if you don't help teach, they don't know how to, lead from a managerial side yet. They've never managed anything.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's like a part of what I have to do in that world is to also embrace teaching them to be a manager. And so I want to make sure that I give them viewpoint that is, not right or wrong. It's not that. It's like, this is a style, and this is something you're going to have to determine what your style is. I want to make sure I give them room to fail or to succeed with their own style. And, one of those things that so many people in my mind, where I do think that in this day and age, I just don't think it works as well as maybe it did, 20, 30 years ago, is where you manage and treat everyone the same, right? I know that sounds like the way to go, and you don't want to treat this person different than this person and this person. You need to know the personalities to know what is going to be the best way, within fairness. I mean, you're not talking about giving anyone favorability, but how do I talk to Nicole here, and how do I deal with her to get the best out of her?
Yes.
Because if I treated her the exact same way that I'm treating this person over here, she may shut down. She may not have that success.
Yes. Yeah.
And this person may thrive by that style to get that. So it's challenging to really figure out how it is that you're supposed to make sure that you can manage somebody, deal with their moods, deal with their, are they morning people? Are they afternoon people?
Yeah.
Where do we get the most success out of this person? And it's not easy, and it's certainly challenging to try to figure that out, to say, how do we, treat even departmentally? How does the marketing people in that department work differently than the PR people? Two different worlds, creativity, more black and white, right?
Yeah.
So how do they work together to get the best product? So I better talk differently to the PR people than how I talk creatively, and the world's multicolor. That's over into the marketing side, So that is something that I think, and I think students can learn that right now through everything, because I guarantee every professor, every class leader that you guys have, even if it's a student teacher, every one of them approaches the class differently.
Yes.
And I see it sometimes. It's funny. I'm enamored by some of the videos of the way students get treated by teachers at the university side. And sometimes my daughter will show me some of those, especially if they're U of A ones. The kids are like shooting. And I sit there and think, I totally blame the professors in those situations. I really do. And I know they probably won't want to hear that, because you can't treat every student in there the exact same way and think you're going to get the most out of that student. So just because this one might do something a little differently than how you think that the syllabus should be written or whatever should be guided to every student, I don't think you're making that person, that student, better. I really don't. Yeah. I think where you make that student better is to take what their skill set is, the way that they're wired, and how do you take how they're wired to learn, evolve, but then also to find the most success and learn the class the better, right? And learn the class, the way that they're going to remember it and make an impact to them. So I do think that there are definitely some ways that students can learn how to kind of function with different personalities. This person acting a certain way on the left side of me doesn't make them wrong or right. Doesn't mean that I don't ever have to talk to them again.
Yeah.
In fact, challenge yourself.
Yeah.
How can I build rapport with somebody that I completely disagree with and think is a nut job, right? Yeah. How can I build rapport with that person? And if you can do that, and you find a way to get along with everybody, you find a way to get the most out of everybody, I truly believe that really heightens your ability to manage and lead.
I'll say, management is really great, but it's the most complex thing that one can ever be. It's kind of like a role that is really difficult, because as a manager, of course, you deal with a lot of those personalities, and I'm glad that you kind of realize that in the personality side of
I try. Not perfect, but I try.
Side of things, because as I'm growing up, I've been part of so many teams, different leadership positions, and I've realized that it's we are all different, and when you don't realize that at an early age, it's you'll miss out a lot, because you can't really, even when you're having a planning meeting, you can't have the most out of it if you don't know how to deal with everybody, because there is. Given that also we have different backgrounds, we come from different families. There are kids who they are the only child in their family, so there is a way that child has to be treated in their family. Then there are kids who come from 10 people. It's also kind of even how we grow up is also different. So if you don't embrace those differences, you'll miss out a lot. We were planning to start kind of an organization, and one of the person was like, I think you should go in the management side of things, teach managers, and then pair them up with non-profit organizations so that they can learn those skills. Because one thing that he realized, he was a manager for so many years, and he was like, as a manager, I realized that many companies, when they see you kind of like dedicated, you have all those skills, you're talented, you keep your time, and you're really doing great for the company, and they're seeing good results, they tend to promote you, but they forget to train you as a manager. And now you're stepping in roles that you are not trained on how to deal with all these people, how to manage better, how to deal with the community and everything. And then you miss out a lot of things. And that's why you find like some corporations are really doing great. They're on the top, but there is a way they have missed out a lot of the community elements because they were not trained to do that. So I'm really glad that you got that.
You touched on something there I think that's critical. It's funny because like somebody does a great job and they have a ton of success. You're right. The natural instinct is, all right, what can we move them to? What's next? And obviously with promotion comes more responsibility, right? It's not just a bigger paycheck. There's more responsibility. And if part of that responsibility is taking anybody under their wing to teach and train. But if they don't know how to do that, now all of a sudden they look like they failed. And it's really important to do that. And one thing I would recommend, because it's interesting, like I find myself, it's a smaller organization. We have 20-ish full-time workers. To give perspective, like an NHL team. So the next level up from us, we'll have 120 doing the same job we're doing with 20. So a lot of people have to wear a lot of different hats. So sometimes you don't have the time to be able to dedicate a lot of focus to that training piece of it. So knowing that that's the case in some organizations, now some of it's just pure failure at the top and they're not doing things. They may have time and they do it wrong and they think, well, they should know. And that's not logical. But what I would recommend to students is there are so many great resources for you all nowadays with podcasts and watching people give speeches on YouTube and just all of these different things. Learn now just some of those skills to lead and to manage. They'll only help you. You may not actually be putting them into, into practice in your first job, your second job. You may in some ways, because if you have a bunch of coworkers that are all equal, there's 8 of you that have all been hired in to do the same job, and they all look at each other to figure out, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Or how do we advance this? Or how do we say this? Who's going to go to our supervisor and tell them that we're all overworked? Right? They all look at each other and do that. If you've got some of those skills that you've been able to kind of develop on your own, just self-taught, all of a sudden you're going to really rise, and you've coming from a big family, you're going to be able to say, I know how I dealt with all my brothers and sisters, so I'm going to deal with this way. And all of a sudden that's noticeable to a manager, and that's noticeable that you have some of those skills that would potentially make a good manager already, and that some of that training isn't quite as necessary. It could lead to some faster advancement, but I do challenge students, do it some on your own. Don't always rely on the company, because what if the person training you is terrible at what they do? You're going to get bad habits, right? So, and I've seen that at every level. I mean, people that maybe just aren't good at teaching people.
It's a gift. It's not for everybody.
You're right. It isn't. So put it on yourself, because my Lord, I still today, I mean, that's one thing that I try to do all the time is, as the old guy, I try to figure out with all this new technology, if I don't adapt and I don't figure out how that technology can make our group more successful, and I'm just, we're going to keep doing it this way because it's how we've done it for 40 years, you're not going to continue to evolve and you're not going to be successful. So, I even today continue to watch and try to learn what your generation, what the younger generations are looking at to make sure that I can relate, and that how I'm going to motivate that person is going to be completely different than how I'd motivate maybe somebody that I'd hire in at 45 years old coming into my organization. So it's a lot of self-taught, just evolving and trying to grow. And when you stop doing that, I think that's really when you can hurt yourself.
So in Tucson here, you're really known not just as an executive, because you've worked in there for quite a number of years, but as a community servant through your nonprofit and your broad work in the Tucson community. Why do you believe community involvement is essential to professional success, and how can students begin making an impact before they have a title? I know you've talked about it a little bit, but I know if you can put in more insights, mostly when it comes to the community side of it. Why do you believe building a community is very important?
Yeah, I mean, it's the place you want to live. You want to thrive. Your family's there. That's where home is for you. who doesn't want to live in the best possible community they can? And all parts have to make that work. And if there are, challenges socially within the community, if there are civic challenges, you've got the time, you've got the ability to be able to help and to be able to contribute, whether it's through volunteer hours, whether it's through financial means, because some board work that's out there is trying to raise money to help the causes that charity is a part of. I really think you owe it to your community to be a part of that and to do that. And we've always tried to instill that with our staff, with community work days, when there's days off that, might be a President's Day, or yesterday with a Martin Luther King Day. And, what can we do? It's a day off. You can go to the lake, you can do, but what can we do as an organization? Is there anything we can do to try to make an impact? Can we go and help serve food over at the Salvation Army? Is there can we go to the Tucson Food Bank and we pack bags and things like that to send out to the people that are in need? So I do think you owe it to your community to do that. And I thought from my end of things, any place that I've ever lived, I've always wanted to be a part of that, because I think it gets you more involved. It certainly feels good to do that. So from the social side of it and just, I think, the self-worth, I think it's important.
Yep.
But then from an organizational standpoint, I want them to understand what the Roadrunners stand for. And if we don't walk the walk, how can we talk it?
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that they understand that this organization, the things that I'm saying in here today, and then the things that, I may say to others out there in a private meeting, if I can't back that up and tell you, I can tell you all day long that, we're a part of this community, and that was a big part of being. What do we do? How did we do it? And then all you have to do is just dig a little bit, and you'd see that impact we've made with students, with youth, with the growth of hockey, here in Tucson, with the $1 million+ that we've raised in 10 years, that we've been able to give right back to the community. And then you can look and see it, and then I don't have any problem in the world talking about it, because I know that we've actually done it too.
And I think serving in the nonprofits standpoint of it as well is that when you're serving in a nonprofit setting, you understand the community better, because there are more people approach to you. Those ones who feel like maybe I'm not worthy to go to this corporation or something, they come to you, and there's a way you understand the broader community, what's happening, what's going on. This is just how. Because how a nonprofit is set up is different from a corporation. And so there is a way you're engaging more with the community. And also, as a leader, I feel like it's more of being a servant. You're serving and you're leading by example as well. Because like you say, you're even if you sit in a board meeting, you're we're part of this community and you're not really doing it. So people will be like, he just talked about it. It's just passive.
It's all talk.
Yeah. We haven't seen him doing it. But when you do it by yourself, you part with the team, doing it together, it helps people believe that, let me believe more in this mission, because I can see where the leader is going, I can see his vision, and that kind of brings more confidence in the people and in what you're doing.
I agree, and it's funny, me personally, just one of my traits, people tell me all the time, my coworkers, friends here in town, and people that are on boards with me, or whoever they may be, but they always tell me I need to yell more about what we do, because it's just not a part of it. I'd rather people see it. And sometimes people are blind, or maybe it's just something that they almost have to be, kind of smacked in the face with and say, no, this is what we do.
Yeah.
But, it's just, I find that, from just introspective about myself, challenging. I don't do well in going out and sitting there and screaming about all the accomplishments. It's more so of I think we've done some good things. I'm proud of what we've done, as long as you can look back and say, I think we've made a lot of really good choices. Hopefully we've made a difference for some people. It's nice to hear them when they do come up, and they do regularly at games, and it's great. And people that I see in the community, it's great to hear that we've made a difference. But, it's just one of those things that, again, I said it earlier, the proof's in the pudding. It's do and don't just say. And I think that can make a big difference, really, for any company, any leader, any group or organization.
Yeah. And I also feel sometimes give yourself credit too. Because sometimes my mom will be talking about something, and I'll be like, why didn't you tell me? She's like, I thought you saw it. I'm like, you should have told me, because there's a way when you speak about something, people look at it in a different angle, and it changes the view and the perspective. So sometimes give yourself credit as well.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree, because I don't do that well, but it's nice if those moments, because it lets us know as well that we actually, hit the mark on something. So how do we keep building off of that? Because if you don't look at your successes and you just keep restarting things or keep going in different directions, sometimes the easiest way to build on, success is to figure out, exactly what it is that made the biggest dent, and then kind of keep, banging on it there.
Yep.
Were there any setbacks or challenges that shaped your growth in your career?
Yeah, I think one of those things that I talked about earlier of don't count on other people to kind of teach and train and to do those things early on. I would say that I was very fortunate that 90% of my bosses and people that I had to deal with that owned teams or I reported to were people that I learned something from. Some of them different in a lot of ways, and but they all had a little bit of something that I was able to take from them, and I've stayed friends and connected to so many of those people along the way. And it's when I tell others that, it's funny. They're like, wait, you still talk and know all your old bosses and all that stuff, and you're friends with them. Like, that's just how I kind of built and kind of like how I'm built and how I grew with those people. But the ones that the non 90% that I kind of ran into that were just absolutely walls and impossible to get by. It's amazing how you can let someone like that kind of slow your progress. And that you can let that negativity seep in to where I talked earlier of, wanting to go to work and not trying to get out the minute the bell sounds, right? If you fall into that world and that's what you end up doing, you really owe it to yourself to figure out how to change that. How can you challenge yourself? And I didn't always do that great early on. And I wish, if I could go back, I would. Because I would, you learn a lot as you age and you kind of grow through it. I wish I would have figured out more ways to connect with some of those people that as the younger me, I thought I had zero connection with. So I had no time for them. I didn't really care how they wanted to lead. I didn't care what they want. I was going to do not what I wanted to do for me, but what I thought was going to be the best thing for the organization, And, I look back at that and think that was a roadblock, certainly at the time, to get there. One thing, it took me, as coming in, I mentioned earlier, the broadcast journalism side's where I got my degree. That's where I started into that. But I always wanted to know everything that went on within an organization. I wanted to learn from that side, but I think early on as well, maybe leaning too much into one area and maybe not into the other to learn what everybody was trying to accomplish in there may have slowed me down a little bit too. But I do think just being aware and knowing everything about what it is that you're trying to accomplish, not just myself, but the other workers that are a part of that, it's great to know, what are your priorities and what's your day-to-day made up of? If I'm working across the hall and really don't know that, how are we ever supposed to accomplish anything together as a group? So those are things that certainly I've learned over time, but I wish I would have paid more attention to that earlier.
Yeah, I think that's important because as a leader, you have to get along with everyone. And not everyone will be your cup of tea, and having to navigate that and keeping them close, but also mentally taking care of yourself, because sometimes people say stuff that you personally won't like. So taking that space and navigating that as a leader is also very tough.
It's challenging. Yeah, it really is. Personalities kind of create a lot of those challenges throughout. And I think you're as you have more experience and if you've seen more personalities and learned how to deal with them, you manage them or you handle them easier.
Yeah.
Or at least maybe not easier, but better. Right. Yep. And I think that, everyone's got to learn that, which I don't, I look back and again, as I talked about earlier, where I could have taken a left and you take a right, it got me to the path here. And that's great. But you'd be crazy if you didn't look back and think there were a couple of things you'd try to twist or change a little bit on how you handled them or how you approached them.
Well, thank you so much for having this conversation with us. I don't know if you have anything else that you would love to leave with the students.
Yeah, no, I tell you, I think I love seeing what that next generation is and who's going to start populating the sport. And I think what's really cool and what I love seeing is just, I mentioned earlier, the technology and learning to pivot, the opportunities and how so many changes in the world have created ways to do things differently, whether it is through AI or whether it is through different marketing technologies that people have. I mean, you can pretty much tell, exactly who bought what at what time of the day and where they live. And how now am I going to go and market to that single person, right? To get more affinity and to get more loyalty out of them. So, I think that you guys are all set up in a great spot to learn, to try to grow into whatever that field is, because those technologies are there for everything, certainly for the sports world and the business world, but they are there for everything. And I think that, one thing that I kind of mentioned earlier, but just to kind of reiterate, get your foot in the door, learn, show that value. And I'm telling you, whether it's this, business and organization, whether it's, something completely different, whether you want to be in selling books, maybe you want to be in writing books, you show that value and show that you've got a great word. You don't need to be perfect, and everyone messes up.
Yeah.
Don't be upset if you don't always, hit the mark on something. But by having that work ethic and showing what you're able to contribute, there's not a person out there that's not going to want you to be a part of what they're doing. So that's probably the biggest thing that I would kind of push out there.
Thank you.
You're
so
welcome.
I think the last one I can ask is, where do you see the Tucson Roadrunners in the next 10 years?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Boy. I don't have time to think about that.
Yeah.
Boy, I wish I did. Retirement. Yeah. Hopefully a nice boat somewhere or something like that, right? But I tell you, I love what I do, and I love this community, and, it's absolutely fulfilling to see some of the growth, the benefit we have. And like I talked about earlier of just seeing people that we've known now for 10 years and how we've had an impact in their lives. I mean, there was one young man that came up to me, he's a student here now, but talked about how him and his parents never did anything as a teenager. And he was that teenager that just wanted to stay away. They kind of resonated around coming to Roadrunner games. And that's how they stay connected. And it's just kind of like, oh, that's really nice. And you don't even think about doing things like that. That's not why we're doing it, right? But when you think about how you can impact people like that, I for the time being, certainly happy here with the Roadrunners and happy trying to make a difference here in Tucson.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you so much for sharing with us your time, your moment. I know this is a precious time that you've given us, the 1 hour that you've been having this conversation. And while speaking to you, asking you those questions, I'm kind of like I'm looking at a blueprint where I want to be somewhere in a few years from now, but like I'm learning it in 1 hour, which is great. This has been amazing. We've been waiting for this podcast. When Nicole reached out, we were like, we wish she says a yes.
No, I was happy to do it.
And you said a yes, and so we're really so proud and happy to learn from you about leadership, community, and how you can be in a corporate world and incorporate the community aspect of it while impacting others. Is really beautiful to see, because a few people do that for sure from the standpoint, and many people sometimes they're frustrated. They're like, are you going to the corporate world? Oh my God, I wish you don't do that. So, but seeing you doing that, like incorporating all of them together is so beautiful. And so thank you so much for loving Tucson, making it your home as well, and impacting so many lives, and wish to have more conversations with you.
Anytime. Really appreciate you guys having me. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and thank you for inviting us to the hockey game. That was beautiful.
I'm glad you liked it. That would have been awful. I would have walked in, you guys said, oh, it was terrible.
Yeah, no, it was really
I'm
great.
glad you had fun.
Yeah.